Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. It is Bruce Jordan, the Michael Jordan Hotels. And today we have My Place in the house. And they're going to let us know everything we need to know about extended stay hotels, the extended stay market, and what My Place has to offer. Today we got Eric is here with us. Time for a beer. What's going on, buddy? How you been? So the first question I always ask is, how did you get started in this business?
Well, not the typical. I came out of the auto industry to where I was doing finance and sales manager 10 years ago before I started for My Place. So not your normal hospitality story. I did not come up through the ranks. I did come up through the ranks, but just in different industry.
Mm-hmm.
And was able to, I always had heard the Super 8 story, which is our background. I always heard that story. I did not know Ryan personally, our CEO, and knew that they were growing and wanted to be a part of that, and finally got in front of Ryan, and here we sit today at the NAB Hood Conference, and it's been good. So 9 years in the hospitality business, and a lot of franchises sold since then.
Nice. When you first started off, give us the difference between extended stay when you first started versus now.
Yeah, extended stay was, Ryan kind of realized that at that time in 2012 when we started the brand, Ryan kind of realized that it was an up-and-coming deal, quite a while back even. It gained popularity here recently. But so, our objective was to do a mid-scale product that was also extended stay. So we didn't look for full extended stay. We're a little bit of a hybrid between extended stay and transient hotel. Mm-hmm. We do have kitchens in all the hotels, but we were looking more for a good mix of business, and that's really what we ended up with, is a good mix of transient and extended stay business. Nice.
How is extended stay separate from everything else in the market, based on what you're saying?
The criteria there is different. The guest is different. Mm-hmm. You're more of the traveling nurse, construction, training facilities, people that are staying 30, 60, 90 days. That's really that extended stay niche. We see a decent amount of that, but we see more of the check in Monday, check out Thursday, and then it kind of frees up rooms for us anyway. It frees up rooms on the weekend to where we can have and see a little higher ADR on the weekend too. So
nice. Revenue-wise, when you talk about ADR, revenue-wise, what is the biggest difference that you've seen in the numbers?
So what we like to really promote is the mix of business. Mm-hmm. And without getting into specific numbers on ADR and everything, but typically we will see a 20% higher ADR on the weekend business. And then you're always on that extended stay business. You're lower ADR, but you're looking for that efficiencies in housekeeping. Mm-hmm. You're not cleaning the room as often, so you're able to take a little lower ADR, but it ends up being a really good operating model, because at the end of the day, when you're looking at your NOIs, you want to make sure that you have a good mix there, and that's what we really like to see.
Nice. Listen, I used to manage extended stay hotels, mm-hmm. and let me tell you, it's a lot of fun. But sometimes your front desk agent gets a little too comfortable with the guests because they're there for so long.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that you're able to actually have that model and make it work, because from my experience, usually when you have a lot of transient guests, it really eats away at your bottom line. So.
Yeah, it can. That's why that ADR is important, to push that ADR on that side of it. Yep.
For sure. Tell us about My Place. How did My Place start, and how did you guys get to so many hotels today?
Yeah, so it really goes back to our heritage and our founder, Ron Rivett, founded Super 8 way back in the 70s. Grew that to one of the most successful hotel brands ever. Sold it in 1993. Continued to do other brands all across the flags. Ron had done everything. And then in 2011 decided that he wanted to get back in the franchise business. Mm-hmm. Ryan Rivett, his grandson, had kind of come up through the ranks with construction and management and everything. And he tasked Ryan with coming up with an updated Super 8 model that was a little more mid-scale, but also had that extended stay component. So Ryan came up with the My Place concept. We did the first one in Dickinson, North Dakota, during the oil boom.
Nice.
In 2012. Opened that property, and then just continued to grow the brand. Currently, we have 114 franchises awarded. We have 72 open properties across 29 states. We got about another 8 hotels that could open before the end of the year here. So still, tracking on a good pace, even in today's challenging environment, obviously.
Yeah. What really surprises me is that like hotel franchises that are not known for extended stay at all of a sudden just come out with a product out of their backpack like, hey, we got a extended stay hotel for you. There's a learning curve when it comes to extended stay. So, I don't know. Like, what separates you guys from the competition?
There is definitely a learning curve. We've talked previously, especially with your GM, there's definitely a different niche there on the GM side because they have to wear a lot of hats.
Correct.
They have to be very versatile in what they're able to do because it's a low staffing model. Mm-hmm. So most of our properties are 9 to 11 employees. Only a few of those are full time. So you definitely have to handle the property different. You have to manage it different. You promote it differently. Our revenue management team back at corporate really does a good job of helping the GM balance that business that they're looking to put in their property. It's an exciting time because extended stay, of course, really blew up shortly after COVID. Mm-hmm. We like to say that we've been doing this for a while and we've kind of worked out some of the bugs and. With 70 hotels now, we feel like we have the experience that we can carry forward to the franchisees.
I talked to a lot of extended stay GMs, and like the revenue side is like what they really struggle with the most because they're so used to, being in operations.
Right.
It's a really heavy, intensive operation model. Like, what are some of the things that you guys are doing to overcome those challenges for those GMs?
Sure. Probably the biggest on that is we have a revenue management team back at corporate that is there to help the GM as much as the owner wants. Mm-hmm. So, if the owner says, hey, you know what, my GM is consumed with housekeeping and people not showing up and everything else, then the revenue management at corporate can basically push the buttons. They'll make sure that, hey, are we taking the right mix of business? Do we want to fill our hotel up with lower rate business if there's events coming up? So they can be really impactful as much as the owner wants. So that's one thing. A few other things that we provide from the corporate level and the brand level that I don't really see from other brands. We have extensive training for the GM. When they first get hired, we bring them to Aberdeen. They stay at the My Place Hotel. We have a university there. They train there. They spend 5 days there, basically working through everything they need to know. They'll get called up in the middle of the night and say, hey, you got a front desk person not show up. You're going to do an audit tonight. So all the GMs come to Aberdeen for that training. And then we send out our trainer 3 days prior to opening because you know how that is. Opening a new hotel is chaos in those last 3 days. So we send a trainer out for that. So we really try to be really hands-on. All the way down to, we were talking the quarterly inspections. We still are one of the few brands that are actually on the property once a quarter. We want to make sure that, one, the property is being taken care of and everything, but also just give feedback to the owner on things we're seeing. Mm-hmm. It's not we're not out there to say, hey, you need to fix this, you need to do that. It's more of a, hey, here's some issues that we've noticed and just advice going forward. We have a national sales team that calls all the accounts that we have. Anytime a new hotel opens up, they call all the accounts that we have and say, hey, we got a property open up in Pooler, Georgia. What kind of business do you guys send that way? So we really try to be very involved across all the boards. We handle a lot of the negotiation for government rooms, consortia business. That's all done from us at the brand level. Mm-hmm. And I think that I've had a lot of franchisees from other brands during our discovery days say, well, you guys are almost like a management company, just in how interactive and how open we are to suggestions on how we can help increase the bottom line for both of us. Right, that's the whole point.
Absolutely.
We look at it as we all say a partnership, but I think we take that to the next level. As we're growing the My Place brand, we really need to make sure that that you're successful, because if you're not, we're going to have a tough time growing this brand. So we've really made sure that we're on the backside helping as much as we possibly can.
One thing that I feel like is really unique about my place is that you guys are in it together with the franchisee, because you see a lot of these franchises, it's all about fees for them. Like they ain't really, I can't say if the fees are disclosed or not, but nobody expects a $10,000, $15,000 line item to be on their franchise invoice for privileges or for marketing. Right. You know what I mean? Like I wish people will just be give more full disclosure.
More transparency.
Yeah, a lot more transparency, because you don't see that a lot in this industry. I mean, you don't see it until you sign anyway.
Yeah. When we've always tried to do the best we can on that. I know that we seem to think our franchise agreement is about as straightforward as it can be. We've tried to simplify all that. It comes back to the Super 8 days. It worked then. We feel that it works now. But we're also building these hotels as a portfolio of our internal properties. And so, I think that's one other thing that really separates us from other franchises. We are one of the few that's family owned, number one. We're not affiliated with any other brand. We're one of the few that the family still builds. Back when Ron was growing Super 8, he had 100 Super 8s that he owned. That's going to be the continuing story with us. We will always have a portfolio of internal properties. They're still franchised, but they're owned by partnerships of individuals from past relationships, and we'll continue to do that, because what it does for us, it keeps skin in the game, right?
That's right.
So our franchisees are like, you know what? We know that you guys are also operating these properties, so we're managing those properties. We're constructing them. We're obviously on the brand side doing the Q&A. So we want to make sure that we're not making choices on the construction side or the management side or operations side. We're not making choices that we can't feel comfortable telling our franchisees to do.
Correct. That's a really big KPI when it comes to like choosing franchises. You do not want a franchise that's in the franchise business. You want a franchise that's in the hotel business, because if the franchise can say all your hotels need to fly by 2026, yep. They can set any rule for you, because it doesn't apply to them. So the fact that you're actually in the hotel business, those same rules apply to you.
Yeah, because I think one of the biggest frustrations with franchisees is when you get told, hey, you need to change this standard, because guess what? We like that new sconce. And, you're like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I guess from our perspective, because we're involved with so many hotels, it needs to make sense to everybody. It doesn't make sense to just do it, right?
Correct. What about changes that need to be made? Because there'll be some times where you have to change the signage, or you have to maybe change the amenities or something of that nature. What usually happens? What's that process usually like?
So the way we usually lay out the standards that way is, I'm going to use an example off the top of my head. So it used to be that on the cooktops you had the coil burners, right? Mm-hmm. Well, eventually the brand standard, and this was a while back already, but the brand standard switched to the smooth tops. Mm-hmm. They became more reasonable, cost-effective wise, and easier to clean and everything else. But we didn't go back to our franchisees and say, hey, guess what? You got to replace 64 cooktops or 85 cooktops, just because these are the new standard. Mm-hmm. But going forward, if you're going to replace that cooktop, this is the new one that goes in. So it kind of gets staged and progressively they get changed throughout the time period. Similar with signage or anything like that. Typically, we really haven't changed a whole lot signage-wise, but I know what you're saying. It's a big expense. And we really haven't changed a whole lot that. On something like that, you'd probably only see it maybe on a change of ownership. That's our typical, property gets sold to a different owner, then that would be in part of their PIP. Hey, you got to change the science finally.
Nice. Listen, speaking of pips, like what are we talking? What's the average pip cost? Because I ran into pips that was $3, $4, $5 million by the time they finished.
Because we're still 12 years into this, we really haven't had extensive pips.
Nice.
Everything. We have a relationship with Quest Hospitality that was part of the umbrella companies, and as we worked through the prototypes, we really went to them and said, hey, what holds up? What's going to last the longest, but in this price category, right? So we were able to do a lot of research on that. And we really, even if you look through the franchise agreement, there's no set PIP timeline. Mm-hmm. We kind of feel like, hey, that's what our Q&As are for, to give you a heads up to say, hey, you know what? Hallway carpet might need to be replaced in 6 months. And then if the 6 months comes along, we say, hey, we mentioned this, we better start having a conversation, but it's not we don't have a set PIP to where we're going to come out and say, guess what, you got to do the new prototype. And
the Dream Lovers prototype.
Not sure if you're planning for that, but guess what, it's a chunk of money. Because again, our properties are some of the older ones in the chain too, because the ones that we had done internally were the proof of concept properties. So, the ones in Dickinson, North Dakota, that we all know extended stay can be rough on properties.
Yes.
Especially oil workers.
Yes.
But that I went up and toured it. That property's still in really good shape. So.
Yeah, it was so bad that I had to change the cleaning times for the housekeepers, especially when we had construction, because it was no 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It was like 45 minutes an hour. They would stay in that room for 2, 3, 4 months.
Yep.
And never check out until their job is done.
Yep.
So it's a lot of work. They try to get one of those rooms up and running versus a transient room that they're just there for one night and
right.
gone.
Yep.
So what we have going on at My Place for the future?
I tell you what, we actually have our owners conference coming up here in September. So September 10th through the 13th, we're going to be at the Lowe's Ventana in Tucson, which is an incredible resort. It's a great opportunity for us to get our owners, prospective franchisees out. We have a lot of the industry experts, similar to NABVOD or any other conference. So it's really good material, really good training sessions. We bring in all the GMs. And it's just a great time to get together. And for prospective franchisees, it's a great time to come and sit down with pretty much everybody from corporate. A lot of owners that are out there working in the trenches with us, and GMs. So that's probably our exciting part on that. Like I mentioned, we got 8 hotels that could open by the end of the year.
Okay.
We were just in Grand Rapids, Minnesota last week doing a grand opening. And so, yeah, there's a lot of excitement still. We're still, really optimistic. We signed a couple multi-development agreements here about a year ago, and those guys are just out there crushing the pavement. As far as the one company has 3 properties that are going to open soon, nice. And the other one is out looking for dirt. That's the challenge these days, and finding things that make sense. So, we're pretty excited for the next year.
Yeah. Hey, extended stay is not going anywhere, and you might as well.
No, it's not.
Partner with someone that hasn't just started this yesterday. That's been doing this for quite some time. It was crazy that you guys was actually able to identify extended stay before it took off. That was a big bet.
Yeah, I like to say that even though we're a fairly newish brand at 12 years, we have 50 years of brand experience with Ron's, expertise and what he did with Super 8. This isn't anything. We didn't just go out and start a brand and hope for the best. Our odds were pretty high that we were going to do okay.
Fantastic. Listen, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
Obviously, myplacehotels.com. You can always check out that. Myself and Terry Klein, my business partner, on there. Just go to the franchising tab and click on that, and you'll get our information. And we'd love to start the conversation.
All right. Fantastic. Listen, thank you for coming through today.
Now we're getting beer?
Yeah, now we're getting there. And thank you for watching us. This is another episode. I'm Bruce Jordan, the Michael Jordan Hotels, signing out. This episode was brought to you by the Hotel Revenue Bible, the #1 hotel revenue book that has ever been written. It includes revenue management, digital ads, social media marketing, sales, catering, F&B, and more. Grab your copy today at hotelrevenuebible.com.